Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers and PHLY Spirit Week. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the afternoon. Joining me, as always, it's Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat writer, Charlie O'Connor. What's up today, Chuck?
Not too much. It's a surprisingly dismal day here in Philadelphia. Under 70 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a little chilly. It's supposed to be the summer.
I am just glad my entire area doesn't reek of smoke as it did a few days ago.
Gotcha.
Those, what were they, like Burlington County or something, wildfires. I thought my house was on fire the one day. I was like, this is not good. But apparently it was several counties away. But here we are. It is, of course, PHLY Spirit Week. And there is a lot that goes along with it today, fam. Of course, today we're all just wearing our favorite t-shirts. And if you like any of the shirts you see here at on any of the PHLY shows, you can get them 30% off on the merch store. Just go to allphly.com and hit that merch tab to see all of our new releases, all the Flyers shirts. I really dig the one Charlie has. We put out,
It's a good shirt.
right around opening day, we put out like 2 or 3 Philly shirts I really, really liked. Of course, I'm rocking the michkov Mania. You can get any of these and more over at that merch store for 30% off right now. And I got to tell you, all of our super chat money this week, it is going to the big brothers and big sisters of America. So make sure you either do what you normally do, hit us with a super chat, all the money goes right there, or if you're watching live on YouTube or on demand on YouTube, whatever, right below the chat box, there is a link to donate that way as well. If you don't want to do the super chat, you just want to make a direct donation, hit that link and boom, you are able to donate to everything we've got going on this week with the big brothers and big sisters. So check that out as well. All right. Hit the like button. Do it now.
Yeah.
We're at 42, just a few minutes in. In a couple of minutes, we are going to be joined by Alex Appleyard as he breaks down for us his latest article about the prospects that could be available at #6. We did Caleb Desnoyers. Well, Alex did Caleb Desnoyers. That published this morning, Charlie.
This morning, yes.
So it's brand spanking new. You can check it out at allphly.com if you're not a diehard. What are you doing? Sign up. But some good stuff in there, some things I definitely want to ask about Desnoyers because I feel like he is a guy I have spent maybe the least amount of time on, like in terms of players who could be there in the top 6. 1, I kind of think the centers are going early, and 2, I'm just good. I'm just good on another Desnoyers. It's not fair. Again, like I've said all along, my assessment of him is wildly unfair, and don't come to me for real draft analysis. It's not my job. I do the singing and the dancing around here. But like I can't get out of my head, even though like we have the opposite in the, had the opposite in the organization. Like, well, the other Stromes are good, so all ours will probably be fine. It was like, no. Like the brothers can be different. They can all work out differently. They are, in fact, different people.
And Caleb is a much better prospect, much better track record going into the draft.
Elliot was a mid-round pick.
Skills.
Yes.
Yeah, fifth. So
late pick.
We're stretching the middle. I guess you could call the fifth
3, 4, and 5, I would say, is the middle.
Right.
Even though, I think of a third as way different than a fifth.
That's interesting because I think early, first round is first round.
Yes.
Second round is still early rounds. I think of rounds 3 and 4 as mid, and then I think 5, 6, 7 as late. But 5 is in that weird middle ground where I guess you could consider it mid round if you want to. Yeah,
it's like green, yellow, red. It's yellow turning red.
Okay.
Like that's how I would look at it.
Okay.
But we'll it's. He could go very well, 3rd or 4th overall.
I think that seems to
Elliot,
be that seems to be the general consensus because you mentioned about how you just think the centers are going to go early. Like I'm expecting at least one center to be there at 6, but one of the big guys.
Yeah,
but it does seem like the general industry consensus at the moment is that Desnoyers is likely not going to be there at 6, which, according to Alex, that might not be the worst thing for the Flyers because we're going to talk to him about this, but it seems like Desnoyers might be his least favorite of the that group of 4 after Schaefer and Michael Misa.
And listen, regardless of who may or may not be available, you know what is available? tickets to the draft party, but
Yes.
not a ton of them. It's not as if we are overflowing with tickets here and I'm begging you to go. I'm telling you, if you want to go on Friday, June 27th, to Chickies and Pete's in South Philadelphia, you need to get on it now and make sure you are able to get in to our draft party, whether you want to do the $5 general admission ticket or the $55 VIP experience, which includes a meet and greet with Bernie Parent, a 3-hour open bar, food as well, all sorts of good stuff. And just like last year, we're going to have the raffles and giveaways and all of that. So whatever you have come to expect from the Broad Street and PHLY draft party, all of that and more. But you got to get your tickets. Go to allphly.com, hit that events tab. Make sure you have them, because this is not going to be there's nothing going on tonight. It's Friday, June 27th. Let me go check out that draft party. We will be at capacity. So just know it might not be as simple to get in as always, but tickets available right now. Check them out. All right, Charlie, before we get into the Desnoyers stuff, we got Florida up 3-2. I said I will be rooting for the home teams in games 5, 6, and 7. Well, game 5.
That didn't work out too
Game
well.
5, we have going to the road team, and they once again, Florida is able to get up early, but hang on this time. And if there's one thing that I think is just killing Edmonton in this series, it's first period. I mean, this isn't, high level analysis here, but just stop giving up 2+ goals in the first period. And I think they've given up at least 2 goals in each of the first 5 first periods. And I don't know, don't do that. Just figure out a way. And it's odd to me because just looking at the styles of the two teams, I would think, okay, the high flying, best couple of forwards in the league, 50-goal scorer Leon Draisaitl, best at everything Connor McDavid, fastest dude we've ever seen. They would be the get started early team.
Right.
And Florida being, every whistle we're going to hit you.
Mm-hmm.
They are the team that maybe needs to ease into the game or wear you down to eventually win it in the third. And that's just the opposite of the way this series has gone thus far. Find it very odd that this is the thing that's killing Edmonton. You would think they would be the fast starting team, but has not been the case.
It has been weird because as good as Edmonton's been, and they have been very good, obviously you don't get to game 6 of the Cup Final without playing very well in the playoffs. They've had these stretches where they just falter. You had the first 2 games of the LA series when they lost both those games and put themselves in a big hole. You have you had that ugly loss late in regulation to Vegas.
Yeah.
It was their only loss of that series, but that's a you guys fell apart at the worst possible time loss. You had the collapse in the end of the back half of game 1 of the Dallas series. And then they've always responded. Backs against the wall, they respond. Vegas could have taken back control of that series. They come out, they kick their butt the rest of the way. And then you've got in the Dallas series, they lose that game, they take that punch, and they win the next 4. They roll the rest of the series. Same thing in the LA series. They go down, they come back. So they've always responded, but it seems like more so than Florida, I would say, they have put themselves in position where their back's against the wall and then just trusted that we got the best player in the world. We'll find a way to come back. I just don't know if you can do that against Florida.
It is wild that they have that guy, best player in the world. And still, he scored in game 5. He did finally get one. So that's great to see. But he just hasn't been able to take over, even the way he did, I would say, in games 4 and 5 last year. He didn't show up on the score sheet at all on 6 and 7, did Connor McDavid, but he did finally find his stride at some point in that series to be able to at least force that game 7 for Edmonton. And it just doesn't feel that way, even though he's leading the world, in points and everything. He's Connor McDavid. It hasn't been that yet with him. So 2 games left. Maybe we see it. But I guess the big question now is, what does Edmonton do in net? And I think this was as bad as you just don't want to lose game 5. Okay, now we can go back to what is our plan A.
They're going to go
and
back to Skinner, right?
They have to.
Yeah.
Cal Pickard, like we said, great story. He's been a fine backup for them. Skinner has the higher ceiling, though. Even though you don't quite know exactly what you're going to get. One, he's bounced back well every time he's lost the net. And two, if someone is going to pitch a shutout for them or something, like if there's going to be a tremendous game played, it is probably by Stuart Skinner.
In retrospect, and it wasn't nearly as much of a disaster as it was for the Flyers back in the series by going with Pickard to start Game 5, but it was a little reminiscent of when Michael Leighton came in to end Game 5, which they lost in overtime against the Sabres, and then they start Leighton in Game 6, and everyone in the fan base, at least in my corner of the fan base, was, what are you doing? He's bad.
Yes.
And then he got pulled by the end of the first period, and they end up coming back and winning the game anyway because they were just so much better than Buffalo. Now, obviously, Edmonton did not do that, but it did strike me as, you got a good relief performance from Pickard in Game 4.
Why are you
doubling down here? Just take the money and run and go back to your better goalie. Again, I don't think Pickard was horrendous,
no.
but he wasn't particularly good, and they lose the game. They probably should have went with Skinner.
Charlie, and I want to get into Sam Bennett maybe after we talk his free agency and everything. Maybe after we talk to Alex, but it really feels like he's walking away with the Conn Smythe here, especially if Florida puts it away in 6. Now, if this goes 7, if we have back-to-back hat trick games from McDavid, maybe things change. I do think it's going to take that for McDavid it has to go 7, and he has to go absolutely insane if he's going to win it in a losing effort again.
I don't think they would do it again.
It would take, he had back-to-back 6-point games. Yeah. It has to be something that's completely off the table, something that is not going to happen, I would say, especially if they lose. He had 12 points in 2 games and they somehow lost in 7. I don't see that happening. But maybe we can make the case for Brad Marchand because he's been so good in the final, but we have Sam Bennett leading the playoffs in scoring. He already set the record for goals on the road. He had another one.
Right.
Unless he stays in Florida and takes the discount of why am I in a rush to leave this? $8 million sounds good enough for me to win another cup, probably. Why would I leave? We are in the territory of Sam Bennett isn't just going to get overpaid. He is going to get double what he's his production level.
If he leaves.
If
he stays, he'll probably take a discount.
If he stays, he's going to sign the Reinhart deal.
Right.
And be yeah.
I want to be a Florida Panther.
I want to just win another cup. Let's go for 3 in a row.
Yeah.
But we're in the territory now of his just production, because you get paid for points in this league. That's what happens. Forwards, defensemen, they get paid for points. Goalies, they get paid for save percentage. That's what happens. His regular season production is nowhere near, even with the cap going up and our recalibration, worth 8 figures, and he's going to get it. That's where we are, right? It really feels that way.
If he leaves, he will probably get a contract that is bonkers. Even if he stays in Florida, he's probably going to get a contract that I personally wouldn't be comfortable giving him. But, you look at it and you're like, well, he's such an integral part of that team. But yeah, if Toronto can convince him to leave, and I believe there was a report, I think it was LeBron or somebody reported this weekend that Bennett prefers to stay in the U.S., so that might rule out Toronto anyway. Why are you laughing?
It's because, we have a couple of revenue-generating teams in this league, and nobody wants to play for any of them. And it just, the tax-free thing, because Kelly, I see she's in the comments, and I think it's just a benefit of, the places with nice weather also don't seem to have a ton of press and also happen to be, for the most part, the tax-free states. And it's all these things combined to nobody wants to leave. Nobody wants to go play. Maybe the Rangers. We've had, they got Artemi Panarin, but
Trouba wanted to go there.
Fox
wanted to go there.
But we haven't had major free agents. And that's a big part of it is we don't have major UFAs anymore. It's everyone's a tier 2. There is no tier 1 UFA. Stays. Yeah, Mitch Marner, and I guess we can put Sam Bennett in that group now. because
Well, if you depending on your view,
depending
of
on your
playoff
view
success,
of
yeah.
Sam Bennett.
Yeah.
But like that's the Sam Bennett is your typical Group 1 UFA
Yeah, I would
because
agree
there
with
is no actual Group 1.
I would agree with that.
And now we happen to have a pretty decent class. Still plenty of time before July 1st. But
Not as much time as you think.
it's I think less than 3 weeks.
We're getting there.
I think Elliot said on Sunday 18 days.
We're getting there.
Yeah, it's closing in.
Yeah.
It's just funny. Like Mitch Marner is such an outlier. We don't have the $14 million guy who's actually going to go to market. Like it doesn't happen, and we're going to have that. But Sam Bennett has put himself in that class, but nobody wants to go to those places. Maybe LA. I have a feeling Mitch Marner ends up in LA, but even if he goes to Anaheim, like that is tier 2 of its own market, which although a huge media market, not for hockey, and it's tier 2 of its own place.
I think it just depends on the player because, I mean, it wasn't that long ago when, the big joke with John Tavares with his pajamas.
Yes.
So it really just depends on the player. And I think that is something that...
But that was still, 7 years ago?
That's something that hockey fans struggle with. I think people want it to be like a very easy to understand binary of like, is it a destination team or is it not a destination? And the reality is much more complex because what it boils down to is each individual player has different things they value. Some players probably do, pay attention to their finances really closely, and the tax thing is a real big deal. Other people want to play in a major media market because they want the endorsements and they want the attention and they want to have the chance to, to run the city of a team about the game. Then there are other players who probably would rather be in a small market because they want to be able to go out and have fun and not have everybody recognize them. So I hate setting it up as, and this is something that happened in Flyers world for a long time, was like, well, nobody wants to be a Flyer anymore. We're not a destination. And now it's like, well, they're trying to be a destination again. Like, even if the Flyers do everything right and they open up cap space and they present themselves as a more family-oriented atmosphere, there will be some guys who are big name free agents who will just be like, nah, I don't want to play in Philadelphia. I want to play somewhere where there's a beach. Or, nah, I don't want to play in Philadelphia because I'm a West Coast guy. Or I was building a house in Nashville. Or I'm Canadian and I want to go home. Like when they were still a destination, Dan Hamhuis was still like, nah, I'm from British Columbia. I want to play there. Like you just have to be prepared that it's not like this is a magic, yes, we're a destination. No, we're not a destination. There's so many shades of gray because each individual player has different views on what they prioritize in a destination and what they don't. And also, you can't overcome that by just throwing $5 million a year more at a guy than anybody else can, which you could do in the 80s or the 90s especially.
Even just like the front loading of the contract, like you can only do that so much. You can do it with signing bonuses.
Signing bonuses is the big,
but you still can't do like the GLAT and we gave him 10 mil up front. You can't match it. Like, okay, well, what does year 7 of that deal look like? Because it's not going to be great because you can only have so much disparity between the top and bottom. I think the thing we struggle with in hockey is there's no LA Lakers where it's destination revenue driving team. Like everyone wanted to go to, like, I guess the Blackhawks for a short period of time were. But even then, like how many, I guess Marian Hossa, but how many of the major, it was, we need Brad Richards to be our 3C, because if we have a 2C at 3C, we're going to be who we're supposed to, and there's not that team of major revenue driver that everyone wants to play for in the huge market. Like that doesn't exist as much in hockey as it does in maybe other sports. And in football, it just changes like, well, who's the best quarterback in the league? Everyone wants to go play for that team.
Play with Tom Brady.
I want to go play with Brady. I want to go play with Mahomes. Like, it's that changes from, dynasty to dynasty. And football is a national sport. And like, it just isn't that way in hockey.
It's just tough because, again, I think people want it to be easy to understand. Destination, not destination. Like, say what you will about, and again, this is, we've litigated this to death, but, at the low point of recent Flyers history, when everything was a mess, when Chuck Fletcher was the general manager, the team was terrible, Johnny Gaudreau still wanted to come to Philly.
Yes.
He did not become a Philadelphia Flyer because the Philadelphia Flyers chose not to sign him. He wanted to come to Philly. Now you could say, well, he was from here. Yeah, That's a lot of times why guys want to go to a certain destination. They're from here.
Parisian Suitor, they had the whole league throwing them the exact same contract, and they were like, "Yeah, I'm going home, man. Sorry, like that's just what I'm doing."
Yeah.
Minnesota Wild, absolutely not a destination franchise,
but for them, they were.
For a couple of guys who are from there, they're like, "Hell yeah, let's do it." And as we are making our way through today's program, let's throw to our first commercial break. Let's lead it off with our friends at Ace Hardware Home Services, because at Ace, they got that. If you have an outlet you said you'd fix last summer, not only do they have the tools and hardware you need to get the job done, they have the person to do the fixing as well, because now Ace isn't just the helpful hardware folks, they're also the helpful home service and repair folks. From plumbing and electrical to heating and cooling, they've got the trusted pros to keep your home humming all year long. At Ace Hardware Home Services, they're bringing helpful home, the helpful you love from the store, now to your front door, from Philly to the Jersey Shore. You know, it's heating up. You don't want to be dealing with air conditioning issues. You don't want to be dealing with all new system, all that. So you need help. You need help. You need a hand. You got to go to your friends at Ace. They helped me out a year ago with my air conditioning, and I thought I was going to need a whole new unit. I was going to have to spend thousands of dollars. This was going to be a big issue for me. A little bit of labor and a $20 part. A year later, my air conditioner is working just fine, and that's the type of service you get at Ace. So visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project. While we're here, why don't I tell you about Cherry Hill Jeep? If you're looking for a Jeep or Ram truck, there's only one dealership in South Jersey who has been the market leader since 1967. So like as long as the Flyers have existed, Cherry Hill Jeep, they've been the market leader. My friends at cherryhilljeep.com have you covered on the best selection, but more importantly, the best prices, and they're celebrating Memorial Day savings all month long. So slide into a Jeep Grand Cherokee this month. Not only is it the most awarded SUV ever, it was also named Motor Trend's best midsize utility vehicle for the past 2 years in a row. That's in addition to being a 2024 IIHS top safety pick. Or pull away in the most luxurious and functional pickup truck on the market today, the 2025 Ram 1500, which just received the most coveted award in the pickup truck industry, 2025 Motor Trend Truck of the Year. So stop in today, tell them PHLY sent you, and receive an additional $1,000 for your trade-in. I know people buy Jeeps and Ram trucks elsewhere. I just don't know why. Drive home in your new Jeep or Ram truck today, just minutes from all bridges, or available online 24/7 at cherryhilljeep.com. All right, while we're here, Chuck, let's do the Sam Bennett thing. So one free agent for every team. That was an Athletic article over the weekend, I believe.
Yeah, each of the individual beat writers.
Each beat, covered, like, just discussed.
Well, the beats that have an individual beat writer still.
Yeah. Each team, though, is assigned, like, okay, pick one player in free agency that best fits you. And our pal Kevin Kurz over at The Athletic, he, of course, chose Sam Bennett, which I just love, because the first sentence, if Bennett commands $10 million a season, I can read, as some reports have suggested he might, that will be too much for the Flyers at this stage of their building process. He's only leaving Florida for $10 million. Like, I think he's going to take the hometown discount there to stay, and that might very well be in the cards for them, and they'll just have priorities elsewhere. Like, Aaron Ekblad, we did get Seth Jones. There was a reason for that. See ya. And that's kind of my guy. Or everyone just takes a discount to stay because they're beating everyone to hell. Why not try to win 3 straight cups for... What was the last team to win 3 straight? It's got to be like...
Was it Edmonton?
I don't know if Edmonton ever... They won 5 in 7 years, but I don't know if they ever won 3 in a row.
Okay, I'd have to go back.
There's like a Calgary in there. There's a Montreal in there.
Penguins won 2 straight.
Penguins won
Detroit
2
won 2 straight.
Yeah. It might be the Islanders when they won 4.
Now we're getting into time before I was born.
Before we were,
There has never been a team that has won 3 straight since I've been alive.
So, since 35 plus years, I don't think anyone's won 3 straight. But I just find this. Do you think right now, because I guess he plays center, he is a Flyer, like Sam Bennett is the guy in the UFA market for them? If they were to just have their pick, forget, oh yeah, well, he's maybe a 2C and he's going to make 10 million. Like if it's 7x8, do you think he is the right fit for the Flyers?
I'm still skeptical that they were ever going to go out this summer and throw big money at a free agent. I don't think it fits what they see as their timeline for spending the money, just, writing a check from a free agent standpoint. I do think they will probably go out and sign somebody, maybe a couple people, but not big ticket guys. And then I would hope that they are active in the trade market as well. But I think they like Sam Bennett. I think he fits their, he kind of he hits that sweet spot of everything that, Keith Jones especially loves about hockey and loves about the, the clutch gene, the physicality, the meanness. It's he's a throwback Flyers type player. So I'm sure they watch the playoffs and they're like, man, it would be cool to have Sam Bennett. This is clearly the entire reason why Kevin wants them to get Sam Bennett, is that he's probably been watching. But Kevin is much more of a traditionalist hockey person. And he's probably been watching the playoffs and being like, I want to cover Sam Bennett. That would be real fun. And that's probably where all this is coming from his perspective.
Listen, I would love for the Flyers to go out and get Sam Bennett. I just do think it's going to be a little cost prohibitive. And it's kind of the same conversation we had with when we discussed Mitch Marner a few weeks ago. This team still doesn't have a top defenseman or a top center. Can you spend that money on essentially a depth player, or in Marner's case, like a winger, which, yeah, he's better than any of the wingers they have, but it still doesn't check the box of the thing we have none of. Can you actually go out and do that when you're going to have to spend on these other, unless they just get lucky in one of these guys they draft? But I do think, if they get Martone at 6, I'm way more open to it, because, all right, we do still need a 2C2. Who knows what Jet Luchenko is going to be if he ends up being a middle 6 or top 6 center? Okay, cool. We've got good depth there. But if it's okay, we have Luchenko in the system. Don't even know if he's going to make the team. We have Cates, we have Couturier, but we don't really have. All right, Bennett makes sense if Martone is the pick. But if they get another guy who's probably going to be not a 1C, I just don't see how that all comes together in terms of team building.
Fair, but it's not like by writing Sam Bennett a check that pays him $10 million a year magically turns him into a 1C.
Oh, that's my issue.
He's not a 1C.
They're gonna have him.
You might be paying him like one.
They have him and then a few other guys who are basically not what he does, but his level of production, like guys who are gonna be maybe 2Cs. It's so we have a bunch of this and still no 1C. That's my drawback. But if they were to get Martone, at least they don't have that log jam in that spot, and there's still an opportunity to get a 1C elsewhere. But I just don't see it as great of a fit as, personally, I want Aaron Ekblad, because I think, one, he's going to age pretty well, and he fills a need. This team still needs another top pair defenseman, and I don't think he's going to be like a $12 million player.
Yeah, I'm not on the Ekblad thing. I don't think they're going to go for Ekblad because, again,
probably not.
He's out of what they've decided is their price range for free agents. The thing with me and Sam Bennett is there a price where I would sign Sam Bennett as the Philadelphia Flyers? Sure, but it's a price that he's not going to get. He's going to get way more. If you told me I could sign Sam Bennett for 6 years, $7 million AAV, yeah, I feel like I would be like, yeah, that's a price I would be willing to pay. But he's going to get way more. He's going to get way more than that from Florida.
Yes. No, that's
he's going to get way more than that if he signs other.
Even with the Florida discount, he's probably going to get more than his level of production would typically command. Because of what he's done in the playoffs and what he's done for that franchise. And listen, hard to argue with paying a guy who's about to win you a Conn Smythe.
And there's also just the fact for me with the Flyers is, if you're paying Sam Bennett, you're paying him in no small part for what he's going to do in the playoffs. and the Flyers are not yet a playoff team.
They just were the 4th worst team in the
Like
league.
even if they take a step forward next year and they become a playoff bubble team, maybe they squeak in. I don't think the added presence of Sam Bennett is going to push them to round 3. Like we're talking like 2-3 years into the deal is going to be the first time you're going to be able to take full advantage of Sam Bennett, playoff god. And by then, he's going to be in his 30s, and who knows if he can still play like Sam Bennett, playoff god, because of the way he plays.
We have seen players of his ilk kind of just fall off. Now, who's to say he will or won't? No idea. But guys who administer that kind of punishment also take it, and that usually leads to a dramatic fall off when it does happen. I don't know if that's going to be the case with Sam Bennett. Maybe he's the outlier. Maybe he's Chris Pronger and can play forever until he's 37, and it's not even a wear and tear injury that knocked Chris Pronger out. He got hit in the eye. Yeah. Like that can happen at any point in anyone's career.
True that.
But you're gonna bank on that?
There's also the fact. I mean,
look, I'm not a Hall of Fame level player either.
And I'm not going to say I don't know the details of Chris Pronger's injury history and career.
Yeah.
But if I had to guess, knowing how tough he was in the game he played, it wouldn't shock me if he had multiple concussions that went unreported that led to the eye thing being worse than it would have been otherwise.
He played in the NHL in the 90s. Right. Something tells me he had a bunch of unreported concussions.
Right.
I mean, everybody did.
Right.
Yeah. Keith Primo said the key to the baseline test is if you take it with a concussion, who's to say, well, I passed because I couldn't spell my name when I took the test.
Oh my God.
That is a gross over exaggeration. I'm just saying, that's kind of what went on, and it still goes on.
I have definitely heard that players have, purposely flopped the baseline so that they can stay in, and it's less likely they're going to fail the test after they're actually concussed. I have heard that on multiple occasions. How much it happens today versus 20 years ago, unclear, but probably still happens a decent amount.
All right, we're going to go a little out of order here, and let's hit our next commercial break so that we don't have any interruptions when Alex is able to join us. All right, let's lead it off with the Hall of Fame app. That's right. The HOF app is one of my absolute favorite apps in the gambling space. And why is that? It's because it tries to alleviate those heart-wrenching losses, because we've all been there. Your parlay is one leg away, and then a relief pitcher gives up a walk-off bomb in the 9th, and you are just heartbroken. And if that sounds familiar, the HOF app is built to fix that, because it was started by 2 lifelong sports fans who also happen to be Ivy League grads. And the HOF makes parlay research smarter, faster, and data-driven. This is not your buddy's group chat full of hot takes. It's a full analytics engine. The HOF app gives you access to advanced stats, historical data, and powerful tools to help you bet smarter. The app is built for the everyday sports fan, so it's easy and intuitive to use. You'll get an idea of your parlay's chances to hit and identify weak legs so you can weed them out before you place your bet. Whether it's Major League Baseball, the NBA, NFL, NHL, college sports, whatever, the app gives you beautiful charts, clean visuals, and real insight, not hype. They believe anything the books know, you should know too, because parlays don't have to be dumb bets. With HOF, they aren't. With a 4.9 rating in the App Store, over 6,000 5-star reviews, it's safe to say HOF has already helped a lot of people bet smarter. And right now, our listeners get a 7-day free trial and 50% off their first month. Just download the HOF app and use code PHLY at checkout. That's right. For a limited time only, our listeners not only get the 7-day free trial, but 50% off their first month when they use PHLY at checkout. Just download the HOF app on iOS and Android and visit hofbets.com and enter code PHLY, and you're all set. While we're here, why don't I tell you about Empire? That's right. 1-800-588-2300 Empire.
Today?
Empire Today, I've been telling you for months now. They are the place for new flooring. You need not go anywhere else because Empire has flooring experts. They live and breathe flooring, and they'll be with you every step of the way. And the flooring experts, well, they're able to bring the showroom right to your home so you can pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space in your space and see how it all looks up against your furniture in your house, your paint colors and all that. And they take the precise measurements for you and will answer all your questions so there are never any surprises. And with Empire Today, you get clear upfront and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. So schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. And PHLY listeners, listen up because you can receive a $350 discount when using promo code PHLY. You heard that right, a $350 discount with code PHLY. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHLY for full details. And with that, we are now joined by PHLY's foreign correspondent and draft analyst. It is our friend, Alex Appleyard. How are you today, Alex?
Hey, Bill. Hey, Charlie. Great to be on again. And yeah, good day. Very warm here. I heard you before saying that it's not so warm in Philly, but over here in Lisbon, Portugal, it's been about 96 Fahrenheit today. So kind of scorching.
That's what makes him such a great foreign correspondent. I never know where Alex is.
That's where the good weather went. They stole it.
They stole it all. Alex, we are talking about Caleb Desnoyers today. Your piece on Caleb came out this morning over at allphly.com. Just as a overall view, how do you see Caleb Desnoyers, and what kind of player do you see him ending up being in the NHL?
I think the range for me is probably somewhere between kind of a solid second line center. I think that's probably his flaw, given his physical attributes with his skating, his size, his strength on the puck, and also, really high end passing abilities and a good two-way game. So I think somewhere around this 45 to 50 point second line center is probably the floor. And then in terms of a ceiling, maybe he can reach that kind of lower end first line center kind of level. You're talking about guys like Hellebuyck or Aho, where they're 75 to 80 point guys who can be a 1C on a kind of cup contender if you have really strong wingers around them, as well as a really good number one defenseman. So that's kind of the rough range I see in him.
For you, Alex, because it seems like, and I'm kind of extrapolating a little bit based on the fact that I've read all three of your pieces, and I also know how high you are on James Hagens, who you'll be releasing an article on later this week. But it seems like out of the four, the big four, I guess we could say, the guys who are after that, Schaefer, Misa, Tier, and are generally expected to probably go in the 3 to 6 range, Anton Frondel, Desnoyers, Hagens, and Porter Martone. It seems like Desnoyers might be the one you like the least. Is that a fair assessment of where you're coming from here, or is it a little bit more nuanced?
No, I think that's a completely fair assessment. If I was going to line them up and pick one by one who my favorites were, he would definitely be my least favorite of the four. But that's not to say I don't like him as a player, and I don't think he's going to be a good NHLer. And for me, the reason for this is really about soft skills. If you're starting to look at these players by who has elite traits, the only kind of close to elite trait I think Desnoyers probably has in terms of his soft skills is his passing, and it's not truly elite on the level of a guy like Hagens. So when you start boiling it down to his shot is probably going to be average at best in the NHL. And his puck handling is going to be average at best in the NHL. While there aren't too many kind of superstar first-line players who have an average shot at best and average puck handling at best and just rely on potentially kind of, elite passing. So that's kind of why I'm a bit lower on him, because I think there's a harder runway for him to become kind of this 85, 90-plus point player. And he would be relying so heavily on his passing and his kind of offensive zone IQ to make up for those perceived weaknesses in the other areas of his game.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the hockey IQ, because for me with Desnoyers, that's easily the thing I like the most about his game. Just how smart he is. I don't necessarily see, because I know some people have compared him, to shut down guys. I don't necessarily see elite defensive hockey IQ. Not that it's bad, but I don't watch him and see Sean Couturier at age 17, 18, that level. But I do see really high offensive hockey IQ in the sense of, finding space and helping his line mates thrive. Do you see that as well in him?
Yeah, definitely. I think his best attribute is really finding weak space in the ice where no one's marking it. He's fantastic, and I wrote about it in the article. He's fantastic at not rushing into space just because it's presented to him. You have so many guys, even at the NHL level, who will miss easy goals because they're going too close to the net, or they're doing a flyby around the net to try and get in a position for a one-timer. And Desnoyers is fantastic just perceiving that pressure, just going, okay, well, the center's dropped deep here. I'm going to give him the space to give me space and drop outside the circles, so that when the puck's taken to the half wall, he can slot into that kind of high slot, slide into the low slot through layers of coverage, and end up with the puck on his stick. And that's how he scores so many of his goals, actually. Being there just in between the circles in the low slot, getting free pucks that no one else even thought might come there. So yeah, his IQ is fantastic in that regard, and also in terms of his passing. And I wrote about it in the article as well. He is a bit too left-sided in my eyes. I think he favors that side too much, and it's fine at the junior level. And once he gets to the NHL level, I think people are going to kind of start to figure that out and push him onto his backhand more. But from his passing perspective, he's really, really good at getting pucks to the slot. And I think, unlike, say, we talked about Frondell, who's also fantastic at getting pucks into the danger areas. But with Frondell, his ability to get pucks to the danger areas is very mechanical. It's almost preordained. I'm going to fire the puck there, regardless of if anyone's there or not, because I know the odds are in my favor. Whereas with Desnoyers, it's seeing a guy at the corner of his eye, knowing someone is going to be there. So yeah, his offensive zone IQ is really high, and I agree on the defensive zone IQ. He's an above average defensive player, but I don't think he's close to a guy like Couturier was at that age, or a guy like Barkov was at that age. And I think if he hits his potential, he's not going to be a Selke finalist. He's going to be a guy more like in the Giroux mold, who is going to get 10th place here, 12th place there, 15th place there. You know, he's always going to be kind of in the conversation as a good defensive player, but without the kind of superstar level defense.
Now, Alex, this is there are a number of different criticisms or reservations about Caleb Desnoyers. You know, in Philly, where Elliot didn't live up to expectations, and that's a completely unfair criticism. Totally different guy, just happens to be his brother. But you bring up this one thing that I've actually seen a few times, that the Q now is the lowest level top tier junior league. It's below the O, it's below the Dub, and even below the USHL. The depth of the league, you're right, not what it once was, and that region of Canada has struggled to produce top six forwards, top four defensemen in the NHL over the last few years. Given that, why should fans be confident Desnoyers is a player, maybe on the level of his peers in the running to be picks in the top 5, top 10?
I would say that's because he's so far beyond everyone else in the queue this year offensively. When you start to delve in the numbers, I put it in the article as well. He scored at 4.1 points per 60 at 5v5. And the second best in the entire league was at 3.3 points per 60 at 5v5. Because interestingly, the Q is actually the lowest scoring of the three CHL leagues, contrary to popular belief. But over the last few years, it's kind of gone quite low scoring, especially at 5v5. So he blew his competition out of the water in terms of, production. And even if he doesn't have that kind of really super high-end upside of a guy like Hagens or maybe Martone, I do think the floor is there. And when you look at the list of guys who came out of the Q, maybe some of them have been disappointments, guys like Drouin, guys like Pierre-Luc Dubois, guys like Lafreniere. They're three of the biggest disappointments in the last 15 years in terms of high picks, but all of them have still reached this really good second line NHL level. So I think that's where the floor comes into this with Desnoyers, because he has above average skating, he has a high hockey IQ, and he's a great passer with good defense. And when you add those four components together, I think it's going to be hard for him not to be a solid second liner.
So one thing that came out in the immediate aftermath of the Memorial Cup was that Desnoyers was playing with two hurt wrists for most of the year. We had Corey Promen on last week. He noted that Desnoyers actually played a lot of wing in the second half, and it seems like that may have been in part because of the wrist injuries that he was dealing with. Do you think you can grade his season a little bit on a curve, knowing what we know now, that he was playing through injuries for at least half the season?
Funnily enough, the area that interests me the most is whether his puck handling would have been better with non-injured wrists. I think his shooting, I don't think the wrist probably impacted it that much. Just having watched him previously in previous years, you go all the way back to him being like a 14-year-old, and he's never really lit up the scoreboard in terms of goals. So unless he's had 2 broken wrists for the last 4 years, don't think it's really impacting him that much. But I do think the puck handling, if you go back and watch some of his tape from last year, I think his puck handling at times was crisper. So maybe it is that, especially with that lower hand, if he's got issues with the lower hand and his puck handling kind of in close before releasing a shot, maybe it could mean that he's less deceptive on his shot. But I think, I think from a shot perspective, I don't think it has too much impact. And the fact that he was able to play 75% of the season at center and still be as good as he was. I don't think the issue was probably, something that required serious surgery or anything. It was probably more of a nagging injury, is the vibe I got from it. So I don't think it has too much of an impact one way or another in my eyes, unless I saw his doctor's reports.
So now he did score. Desnoyers scored almost 50 goals between all the levels and different tournaments he played at in 2024-25. But you've said a couple of times now you're kind of skeptical of his shot. What is it that you don't think is going to translate? Because just looking at the numbers, he scores a ton, but you don't quite think it's going to be that way in the NHL level. He's going to be much more of a playmaker.
Yeah, and I think the reason for this is his release is kind of a bit laggy almost, the way he gets through it. And often he also struggles to elevate the puck. He scores a lot of the goals from this, really just outside the crease. Not in the crease, not on the edge of the crease, but just a few feet behind that, where he's creeping into kind of this soft ice. And I think some of those shots that got through on Q goalies, he's going to have to really improve the velocity and also be able to elevate the puck better on NHL goalies. Because when you look at where he's scoring his goals, so many of them are along the ice. And when you start looking at save percentages of NHL goalies at the left post and the right post, they're up at like 0.980. Most NHL goalies are at 0.980 across the bottom of the ice. They're at 0.950 in this mid zone, and then they're probably under 900 in the top corners because it's so difficult to make a save there. And every NHL goalie is effectively trained to cheat down low because if a guy beats you clean inside the post top corner, well, what can you do? So I think that's something he really will have to improve to be more than a 25 goaler at the NHL level. I think his IQ and the fact that he gets to danger areas and the fact he is quite good around the net, like he's really good at tipping the puck, he has strong eye coordination. It will mean that he can definitely become a 20, 25 goal scorer, but to be that 30 plus goal scorer that, most Elite 1Cs are at least capable of doing, he definitely needs to improve his shot, because at the NHL level, it's not going to cut it sending pucks along the ice at 60 miles an hour.
What do you think the potential, because this is obviously something that we've talked about with a lot of these guys, that it could go 6 just because of the way the Flyers are structured. Matvei Michkov is the guy that the Flyers are hoping to and expect to build around. What do you see as the potential for those two guys to mesh well together over the long term? Because if you're drafting Desnoyers, there's a good chance you're drafting him with the idea that he's going to be Michkov's center long term.
Yeah, I think from an overall perspective, there is some level of fit there, because I think Michkov is this hybrid goal scorer who can also play make, but he does really like getting in close to the net. And Desnoyers is a guy who, is primarily a playmaker. And also I think the sides, the fact that Desnoyers is so left-sided actually might benefit with Michkov, because Michkov far prefers the right side, even though he's also capable of playing on the left. So that could be a nice fit there. And then in terms of the power play, even though Desnoyers is a lefty, he plays almost exclusively on the left side. Funnily, he plays mostly left point because of this, outdated, I would say, kind of umbrella power play that Moncton run, which almost no one ever runs. I've noted in the article, I think only Detroit really ran a power play in a 2-3 umbrella set this season. So I think the fact that Desnoyers is left-handed doesn't make as much of a difference, say, to the power play, because he plays a bit deeper. And, on a power play, I think it's essential to have some one-timers, but I think it doesn't really matter where that one-timer comes from. If it's from the slot, if it's from the right half boards, if it's from the left half boards. And I think in the NHL, Desnoyers is probably going to play left half boards. And he's a fantastic cross-body passer. So I think there's a real potential there, especially the fact that a lot of his cross-body passes on the power play go just outside the crease to the right side, where Michkov thrives. So I think there is a level of fit there for Michkov to potentially elevate a player like Desnoyers' game. And the fact that he has a big body, he's a good skater, he's pretty strong on the boards, could be a nice fit.
Okay, so one more question, and this is more about bigger picture rankings. So right now it does seem like the scuttlebutt in league circles is that Desnoyers likely will not be there at 6, that probably one of those teams, whether it's Chicago or Utah or even Nashville, would take him if he's there. So it seems unlikely that he's going to be there at 6, but you never know. The draft sometimes surprises, and maybe thoughts change about some of the other guys. Somebody reaches on, Brady Martin at 4 or something like that. But if it plays out where, let's say all of Frondell, Martone, and Hagens are taken between 3 and 5, and they're staring at Desnoyers at 6, is Desnoyers your slam dunk pick at 6, or would you pick someone over Desnoyers at 6?
This is an interesting one. I think I probably would pick him at 6, but I would have some doubts in my mind, especially actually with Eklund. I think You know, I know you like him, and I really like Eklund in his game, and I think Eklund probably has maybe a slightly higher floor, although it depends on how you evaluate center versus wing. You know, I think he's also a second line floor, but maybe he has a slightly higher upside to get into this, if everything goes perfectly, 85 plus point winger. So I would definitely pause for a moment to think about picking between those two, but then I think I probably would go for Desnoyers, simply because if they reach their ceiling, is it an 85 to 90 point winger or an 80 point center? They're probably similar value wise in terms of the league in general, but maybe just an edge to Desnoyers. And then with a guy like O'Brien, I think I would still take Desnoyers ahead of him, even though I do see that if everything goes perfect for O'Brien, he could have a higher upside than Caleb Desnoyers. But I don't think the difference is enormous. You know, I think if everything went perfectly and O'Brien improved his place of play and, you know, shot more and, yeah, just rounded out his transition game as well, then maybe he'd be, you know, potentially an 85-point center with a good two-way game versus Desnoyers. He could be, in my eyes, you know, he's splitting hairs here almost, like an 80-point center with a good two-way game. And the risk of O'Brien being a total bust, I think, is higher, simply because if he doesn't improve his pace of play and really improve at 5v5 in some ways in the offensive zone and learn how to actually get open for shots, even though he's got a good shot, he might end up, you know, a guy who plays a few years in the league and then is either a third liner or even just an all-star AHL level guy. So that's my thinking there. It is between those three players, and then either in a guy like Carter Bear, who I really like. I could imagine picking any of those guys, but I think I would go with Desnoyers because I think the balance of safety versus upside might just be the best, especially when you consider he's a center. Even though I'm not a big proponent of centers being super valuable versus winger in the modern NHL.
All right, Alex, let us know what you have coming up next and where the people can follow you.
Yeah, you can follow me at AV Appleyard on Twitter. We also do draft rankings for Smart Scouting, which I'm one of an 11-man team there, and we put out our final 100-ish. We have some honorable mentions as well, ranking for the draft. And yeah, the next piece will be on James Higgins. So saving the best till last in my eyes. Later on this week, we'll have a similar deep dive, 2,500 plus words, diagrams, video, on Higgins, who I think, yeah, for me would be the most exciting pick for the Flyers since, well, michkov.
That would be, man, there's this dream of Higgins being available that I have. I just don't think it's going to happen, but we shall see. Alex, we will talk to you again, hopefully next week. Thank you for joining us once again.
It's my pleasure, guys. Have a great day.
That is Alex Appleyard, our draft expert and foreign correspondent. I just like saying we have a foreign correspondent, quite honestly. Yeah. Makes me feel more important than
International PHLY.
Yes. Yeah, that's PHLY International. We have a foreign bureau. Many news outlets have cut that from their coverage. I learned
we've expanded.
Yeah, we have expanded. So we are the opposite of like the Baltimore Sun. I just watch The Wire way too much. All right. Before we go any further with today's conversation, there's a couple of things I got to tell you about happening internally here at PHLY. First, as I mentioned at the top of the show, it is Spirit Week, and all of our super chat money and all of the donations, you can click below the chat box as well. You can donate to the Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America. Well, as part of ALLCITY Spirit Week, we are teaming up with Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America. It's an incredible group creating life-changing mentorships for kids across the country. We have set a goal of $10,000, but we would love to smash right through that, and we can with your help. You can donate using the link in the video or description, and if you want to make an even bigger impact, you can also sign up to become a big by visiting bbbs.org/allcity. Let's do something meaningful together this week. Again, bbbs.org/allcity if you want to sign up to become one of the Big Brother or Big Sister mentors. And while we're here, just got to remind you about that Streamathon coming up this Wednesday, just a couple of days from now, Wednesday, June 18th. It is go time here at PHLY. PHLY, we are going live for a 12 straight hour Streamathon presented by our friends at TrueMark Financial. That's right, a full day of wall-to-wall sports, laughs, chaos, and your favorite PHLY talent doing what they do best, keeping you Philly fans entertained, informed, and a little unhinged. We're going to have special guests. We're going to have behind-the-scenes surprises, maybe even a little friendly competition between shows. So make sure you have that reminder bell set. Tune in all week because I want to crush all the other shows. I want the Flyers. That's right, the worst team in the city. With it's hockey. It's the smallest followership. I want the best numbers this week. You got to help us. Make sure you're following us here on the YouTube page because whether you're repping the Birds or you're bleeding orange or just here for the vibes, you're not going to want to miss any of what we have going on all week. Streaming on the YouTube channel. And the kicker, you can support us by hitting that subscribe button. It's free and easy. Not only does it help us creating the content Philly fans love and deserve, but it gets you front row access to every moment of the madness. So mark your calendars, your schedule, and get ready to ride with PHLY for 12 hours, one city, all vibes. That's Wednesday, June 18th, PHLY Streamathon. Subscribe now. It's the easiest way to support us. Subscribe to the YouTube page and hit that like button. We're only at 170 now, 172 likes.
Oh, we get to 200.
5 minutes.
Easy.
5 minutes before we go to overtime. But 5 minutes left in the show. You got to get us to 200. 200 is the bare minimum, considering all the time and effort we put in for you people. Hit the freaking button, damn it. Hit it. This is how I show love.
Be thankful.
Guilting them. Yes.
Be gracious.
So just a couple of things I wanted to hit on before we wrap up. Let's go with the Desnoyers conversation for just a minute. If it goes, Charlie, let's say we know it's going to be Schaefer-Misa probably. Then let's say it's Martone, Hagens, and Frondell. Any order there. Mm-hmm. But let's say it's those five. To you, is Desnoyers the clear-cut pick at 6, or do you think there's wiggle room? Like, oh, it could be Eklund, it could be O'Brien, it could be Brady Martin. I know you don't actually want Brady Martin, but just for S's and giggles.
So where it seems like I'm following with my board is I have Hagens third, but closer to Misa and Schaefer than everybody else. So I have him kind of in that like tier above everybody else. Then I have, I believe my ranking is, I have Martone at 4, I have Frondell at 5, I have Desnoyers at 6, I have O'Brien at 7, and I have Eklund at 8 and McQueen at 9. But all those guys I do have in the same tier.
Okay.
So for me, I would take Desnoyers. Desnoyers, I have 6 on my board. He would be my pick over O'Brien, mostly for the same reasons Alex said. Whereas, while I could see O'Brien having a slightly higher ceiling, I think O'Brien's floor is significantly lower. I see a lot more risk in his game. He's going to have to remake the way he plays. Now, if he does it, he can be awesome because he has some high-end tools that Desnoyers doesn't have. But he could also be, a quad A guy who scores like crazy in the AHL and never can fully translate his game because he never changes the way he plays. So the risk element would have me picking Desnoyers over O'Brien. But I have O'Brien, Eklund, and McQueen all in that same tier. So those are the 3 guys. Eklund probably not, just because I don't think you can justify going wing. But if they were to take O'Brien or McQueen over Desnoyers, I would disagree with it, but I could understand it.
This wouldn't be a, wow, they effed up sort of.
It would be like, I wouldn't have done that, but I get where you're coming from. And the upside for those 2 guys is probably, in my mind, higher than the upside for Desnoyers. It's just that I think the floor for Desnoyers is so high that, like, I'm going for it because I think that at the very least he's a solid enough, darn good middle 6 center. And if everything breaks right, he's Nico Hischier. And, like, that's pretty cool. I'm not necessarily going to sacrifice that to take a swing on McQueen, who by 23 might be out of the league because his back flares up.
I feel like I'm coming around on McQueen. Like I've said, I kind of really like him. And based on his comments about the injury, like if all of that is true, it was misdiagnosed and now it is a healed bone. And yeah, like there's a risk of re-injury as much as there is for basically anybody re-injuring like a bone they've broken before, but this isn't something that in 6 months, it's like, yeah, my back hurts. Like if that's really what the injury is and the doctors agree, because I don't think you could get the go ahead to do this unless like the doctors are like, we looked at him and he's fine.
Yeah.
Like then I can understand it. But otherwise I do think like Desnoyers is the safest pick. And while we've both said they need to take some swings, you also need to come away from number 6 with a guy who is going to be here for the next 10 years. Like, you do need that as much as I want the big swing. And Desnoyers, I think, represents that.
And I don't think he is. It's not like if you take Desnoyers, you're swinging for a single.
Yeah.
You're probably, maybe swinging for
I would love Nico Hischier. Yeah, like that's real good.
Yeah.
You need a Nico Hischier. That's awesome.
Exactly.
All right. We are headed to overtime. For more of the show, go to allphly.com if you are part of the TV audience.
And one thing, too, about Desnoyers, and this is something that Corey Pronman has mentioned a bunch of times. Number one, it's his read of the general consensus of the NHL scouting community, but it's also his read on Desnoyers as well. He's mentioned it on some of his other podcasts that he believes that the way that Desnoyers plays, while he's not, he's not a Brady Martin, I'm throwing my weight around hitting everybody, although there have been some tournaments where he has done that. He has shown that he can play physical, and when he bulks up, because he does need to put on a lot more muscle, he might play a more physical game. But there's a feeling in NHL scouting circles, number one, that he is the most likely out of all these guys, maybe even more so than Michael Misa, to stick down the middle. So that adds some certainty to his projection. There isn't much of a thought that he's ever going to have to kick out to wing. But also there's a feeling that his game is well suited for the playoffs, and that he's a guy where wherever he goes, his teams win. His teams play very well, that he has that intangible factor that will allow him to thrive in the playoffs. It's something where Corey has made the comparison to Hagens, where Hagens definitely a higher upside player, and I like Hagens more than Desnoyers. But there is a concern that a player of Hagens' ilk, who is smaller, but not only is smaller, but also plays a more finesse game. At least last year, playing for Boston College, he played a little bit more of a perimeter game. There are some fears that he might be a Matt Duchene type where, yeah, he scores 70 points in the regular season, then the playoffs roll around, he's got 6 points in 18 games.
Yeah.
Do you want him at the top of your lineup if you're trying to win a cup? Whereas with Desnoyers, the general consensus is, oh no, this is a guy you win with. So just something to keep in mind, that is the view of Desnoyers from the people in the game. Not all, but a lot.
And just to wrap that up, in terms of room to bulk up, 6'2", 172. So his frame can absolutely support it.
He's going to have to put on more muscle.
Yeah, you can't play center at 172 in the NHL.
I mean, maybe you can if you're small.
Yeah, if you're 6'2", 172.
Yeah, when you're that tall and that skinny, you need to put on more weight.
You're asking for someone to get up under you and knock you out. If you're
But in
6'2",
fairness,
172.
Jake O'Brien also needs to put on a lot more muscle too.
He certainly does. Yeah, he looks slight as well. But
McQueen actually is pretty built already. I mean, he could stand to put on more muscle because everyone can, but he's the guy who, if the back isn't a problem, he could hold up in the NHL today. Both O'Brien and Desnoyers will need to bulk up.
Every single 17, 18-year-old taken in this draft needs to hit the weight room with fury.
Yes.
Like, doesn't matter how big you already are. Everyone is strong as hell in the NHL. They are strong dudes. Even the dudes who are like 182 are super freaking strong because they are grown-ass men. At 18, you're just not that. Yeah. Like, you're not a grown-up at 18 years old. So you need to get bigger and stronger. That's a thing every guy needs to do who's going to be drafted in a couple of weeks.
We're over 200 likes.
Yeah,
Good
we're
job,
over 200
gang.
likes. Thank you. Real quick, the Flyers are going to have at least one Olympian. Rodrigo Abels.
Yeah, how do you like those Abels?
Named to Team Latvia. That's cool.
That is cool. Good for him.
As long as Risto is healthy, which is, a coin flip at this point.
Always a question. He'll be on Team Finland.
He'll be Team Finland.
Sure.
Do you think we have any others?
It seems, well...
Obviously, Russia is banned, so there will be no Mish.
No Michkov, unfortunately. I think Sanheim and Konechny have a real shot.
It seems like Sanheim has, now we'll see, we're hearing Alex Pietrangelo. Of course, he skipped 4 nations, and now it's is he going to be even healthy enough to play at all this season? That raises Sanheim's possibility. It seems like they really liked him at 4 nations.
It seems like the Hockey Canada brass was very satisfied with Sanheim, so it seems like he's in a good place. And while Konechny seemed like he was a bit further down in their estimation, he obviously got scratched a bunch of times, but he did go to Worlds, and he played well at Worlds. So is that enough to change the perception of his place on the team? Maybe not, but it didn't hurt. It didn't hurt. And if he gets off to a fast start next season, I could see a world where both the Travi are on Team Canada. Right now, I would say Sanheim probably has a better chance of being a depth guy, but I don't think Konechny hurt himself, especially by going to Worlds and then performing well there.
Did you coin Travi?
I think I did.
Because now, I think it was like a week ago at this point, but like on June 11th, 6/11, because it's their two numbers, they tweet out like it's Travi Day. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure Charlie came up with this.
I think I was the one who started it. And I just kept tweeting it and kept saying it on enough shows. And eventually, eventually it stuck.
Stuck. And I saw the Flyers tweet that out the other day. I was like, this might be the thing I'm most proud of Charlie for doing. And like, he's done a lot of actual things. But that one, I was just happy to see. Real quick, Hellebuyck wins the Hart and Vezina, and I think both deserved. They are regular season awards.
They are.
They need to hand these out like in the second round. Like, it's just a big who cares when those guys, it's announced in the Stanley Cup Final, and it's like, yes, Sam Bennett is destroying it. Connor McDavid. Brad Marchand's the best, deadline pickup in years. Like, it's just such a big who cares when the guy who won, like, I don't know, 2 of the 3 biggest awards is, he's been out, and he's been out for a month.
Yeah, and he wasn't very good.
And it's like, he's actually the reason they're out. I mean, they're not very good. Like, that's kind of the problem is, he's their whole team, and when he's only mediocre in the playoffs, they get bounced.
Not their whole team, but he's the reason why they are.
He is the reason they won the President's Trophy and not like a bubble playoff team, or at least like 3rd in their division instead of, they had the best record in the league. Yeah. I just feel like they need to give these out like between the first and second rounds.
It does risk the decision seeming incorrect by no fault other than the fact that they waited until mid-June.
Yeah. Like,
if you announce it right after the regular season, you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Like, I don't know, McDavid, Draisaitl, like, maybe. But here we are. All right. That is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers today.
Do we have to do super chats?
Do we have any? No super chats. So you better be donating on the link rather than in the super chats, because this is a major disappointment. I want to win these I want to win these competitions this week, and you are not starting us out well, audience. You're great all the time. We appreciate you very much. All right, that is all the time we have for you today on PHLY Flyers. Thank you all for listening. Thanks for hanging out. If you haven't already, you got to hit that subscribe button and set that reminder bell. We are going to have special fun shows for you all week long, so make sure you are getting notifications as soon as we go live. We'll be here every day at noon as usual. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers. We are also on Blue Sky. And follow the podcast wherever you get those. Just search PHLY Flyers. That's it for us. I am Bill Matz. That is Charlie O'Connor. Until tomorrow, be excellent to each other.
We all silly like the mayor.